Welcome back, folks. Appreciate you joining us again. Robert here, and of course we got Taylor Goodley once again. This week's a little bit different. We've got a big announcement to make. We've decided to change the name of the show.
After a lot of thought and consideration went in on this, we thought it'd be best.
Yeah. We really like the original name. It kind of sounded fun and geared up, but you know, after my own child came up to me and was asking me about it, and Taylor's son, you know, we're trying to present the right way to live. So we thought we'd change the name of the show a little bit, and we'd like to welcome you guys all to 1836 Outdoors, paying a little homage to Texas history. He and I are both history buffs.
Independence.
Texas is a great nation. It's the only one that stood by itself as a nation for a spell, and we want to throw a little homage back to it. So.
Yeah. We kind of had a little bit of a Billy Graham moment. You know, we thought, you know, due to our religious background, and we thought it'd probably be best.
So we did. We changed the name. It's now 1836 Outdoors, and we'll move on from there. And you know, we thought we better do it now while the show's still young, rather than try to rebrand later. So we appreciate y'all for sticking with us and coming back again to watch our show. This week we're doing a little bit different. We've got some fishing we want to talk about and show y'all.
We talked about that last episode. A little bit of fishing.
And it's time to go fishing.
Yeah, fall. You know, the fall it just ain't hunting. You know, it's also about fishing, and you like catfishing, so you know.
I love catfishing.
Hey, you're the lake record holder. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
That's true. You're right. You know. So we're going to go catfishing. You know, here in Texas, Taylor, I guess a lot of people don't know it, but there's about 6 different species of catfish that are native to Texas. Well, that are now native to Texas, so to speak.
Got the blue.
Got the blue catfish.
Got the channel or yellow catfish.
Channel catfish, yes sir.
Got flathead.
Got flathead. That's what some people call them, yellow cats.
Yellow cats.
Yeah. Then you got your bullheads.
Bullheads.
Got your bullheads. And there's three species of them. You got yellow bullhead, brown bullhead, and black bullhead.
There you go.
But if you catch a black bullhead, it may not be black. It might look green.
Yeah.
Or even yellow.
I don't think I ever caught a black bullhead. Well, you know, majority, you know, fish in Palestine, the only main 2 I catch is blue cat or channel cat.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's about all I catch.
That's predominantly what's in this East Texas area in the reservoirs. I never caught a bullhead until, I don't know, I guess it's probably 10 years ago. I was fishing a friend of mine's private pond, and it was a pretty good sized pond. I mean, it wasn't small. It was probably 40 acres. It was sizable. And they had some, water coming in, runoff water. And so they had this one area that had a lot of lily pads and grass in it before it kind of opened up to your main water area.
Yeah.
And I caught one of them things. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was. You know, because out in central Texas where I grew up, we caught mostly channels and blues and the occasional flathead. And I caught this little fish, and it was about that long, and it had a huge head on it. Huge head. But it looked yellow, and I thought it was a baby flathead, because we always called them yellow cats growing up. And I kept catching more and more of them, and they was all the same size. And I went ahead and kept them, and we cleaned them and cooked them, and I'm going to tell you right now, they taste good.
Really?
They're one of the best tasting catfish there is. The bullhead. Now the bullhead, it's got real sharp spines. You know, they all got the sharp spines on the pectoral fins on the side, right? You got to watch out for them, learn how to hold them, all that. But the bullhead's even got more of like barbs that run down the spine on the pectoral fins, and they'll get you. So they're a little bit grittier. You know, I've flung a few back in the water before and kind of had them run across and mess my finger up.
Well, last year, my kid, you know, he ain't scared of fish. He'll grab a fish and he'll try to get a hook out.
Yeah, good.
For the first time, he really got stuck, and one of those barbs went in his middle finger.
Yep.
Well, he's holding the fish, and the fish is dangling off his middle finger, and I thought he had a hook stuck in him.
Poor guy.
So I dropped my phone because I was taking pictures, you know, and I rushed to him, and I couldn't get the barb out of his finger.
Lord of mercy.
I kept yanking and yanking, and because of those barbs, when that fin went in, it was stuck.
Yeah.
And it almost, you know, it went almost through his finger. So finally, I had to hold his finger, and I told him, this is going to hurt.
Yep.
So I gave him to the count of 3. I said, 1, 2, and when I yanked, he let out a yell. I skipped 3, and we got it out, but, you know, his mom wound up carrying him to the doctor to get it looked at, and the doctor gave him some antibiotics. You know, I went with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of bad.
You know, that brings up a good point. You know, as growing up, you know, anybody around here that catches catfish in Texas, most people are going to know if they've done any kind of amount of fishing that catfish have those barbs. But we were told a lot of times growing up they were poisonous.
Yeah.
Well, they're not poisonous. The reason why people think that is because they would get, you know, finned, and then what it is there's a lot of bacteria that gathers on the end of those pectoral fins, and so it's basically a growth area for bacteria, and it enters the skin, and it can become infected, and that's what it is. So it's just a matter of cleaning it. If you get poked, clean it.
And that's what, you know, my wife, that's what she is worried about.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said, well, you know, if you want to take him to the doctor, let's go to the doctor. And, you know, the main thing is making sure it doesn't get infected.
Yes, sir. If it happens again in the future, I've had it happen to me, use some water, try to rinse off best you can, open it up, rinse it out immediately, pretty quick, and, you know, going about your business. It'll hurt for a spell. It'll smart, but, you know, it's not poison. It's just germs and bacteria.
Looking back at it, you know, my wife, she did the right thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I applaud her for it.
You bet. Absolutely.
Because it was pretty bad.
As deep as he had it, yeah.
It was almost to the bone, and you don't know what kind of bacteria is off in there. So, you know, looking back, my wife made the right call.
You bet. And basically all of those fish have those. And when they're small, they're sharper than they are when they're bigger. You know, as those fish grow, they get more rounded, and so they're still stiff, but they're not as apt to just needle you, you know, as they get bigger, you know. So yeah, you got blue catfish, which is actually the largest species of the catfish in Texas. Now you'll have some people argue with you and say, well, flatheads get bigger, and around here in East Texas they call them ops or Opelousas. Out in Central Texas they call them yellow cat, but they're all flathead. Flathead catfish grow big in reservoirs, and sometimes you'll see the bigger flatheads over the blue cats. However, if you got a large enough body of water or large enough flowing water, the blue cats can actually outgrow the flathead catfish and become bigger. Your state records are from the blue catfish. If you look at some of the bigger reservoirs and rivers, it's the blue cat. So they can grow bigger, but it's just like a goldfish in an aquarium. It depends on the size of the reservoir. Yeah. You know, it really does. So they're all great. Channel catfish, pound for pound, they fight tougher than any of them.
Yeah. Well, you know? my kid is what, 15 inches? That time we went up on the creek.
Oh, when we went up on the Nature's Park?
Yeah. And that was a pretty decent sized catfish.
That was a good sized channel catfish.
We let it go, but it would have been a good eater.
It blows my mind. We can fish Lake Palestine, which is very large. You know, it's a pretty good sizable lake right here in East Texas. And you won't catch that many large channel cat. There's a lot of large blues and flatheads. But you can go 20 miles east and put in at Lake Tyler, and you can catch bigger channel catfish. Yeah. It's amazing to me. I mean, it's just ecosystems, different water. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but it's just, it's kind of neat to see how it differs just from 20 miles.
Yeah.
You know.
Different bodies of water, different fish.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty cool. You know, another thing about catfishing to me that makes it unique to, say, bass fishing or crappie fishing is the different methods to catch them. There's more methods. You know, with bass fishing, primarily your guys are throwing your artificial lures. You know, you're casting and reeling a lot. You know, crappie, you're probably dangling a jig or a minnow or something like that. Sometimes you can catch bass and stuff on minnows and jigs too, like that. But with catfishing, you can do rod and reel, which is what I do most of the time, almost 100% of the time. But you've also got people that specialize with jug lines.
Yeah.
And that's all they do.
And
they don't even use rod and reel.
And they can get a lot of good quality size fish on jug line.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
You know, there's rules on it too. You got to read those. I think it's 50 hooks per person per day or something like that. Yeah, total. So you got your jug line fishermen, and then you got your trot line fishermen. Okay.
Trot line. Which
has been around a really long time. And then you've got your limb line fishermen, which is guys in the river. They really do that. They got a tree hanging over the edge of the river, across the bank, and they'll tie the line to the limb and use the limb as basically your artificial pole, but it's not artificial, it's real. And drop the bait down in the water that way and just have them dangle, and then when the fish hits it, it sets itself.
Yeah.
So you got limb lining. So you got different methods to go after catfish, and to me that just makes it unique. When people come in here and talk to us about purchasing a new boat, a lot of times I'll talk to them and say, hey, well, what kind of fishing are you doing? Well, I'm catfishing, or I'm crappie fishing. I was like, okay, well, what type of catfishing do you like to do? Do you like to rod and reel fish? Are you a jug liner or whatever? And so it's kind of neat to talk to everybody to find out how they fish for catfish, because it's different everywhere. And it depends on the boat.
It depends on the boat. Do you need one for main body of water? Do you need one for a river, creek? Where are you fishing? Even some people, they've got, bigger private ponds or lakes.
Yeah.
And they fish there, and they might just need a john boat.
Yeah, or just fish from the bank.
Or from the bank.
That's how I started catfishing.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, you can throw your line out, sit back, relax, and wait for, Mr. Whiskers to double your rod over, and you never know what you're going to have.
One thing I've always seen it done, but one thing, this noodling, there's something very different about trying to go and reach into a catfish mouth and yank it out of the water.
Yeah, that's a different breed.
Never done that.
I'm not that way. I've seen it on TV, and I've had guys and girls come in here in the store and talk to me about it and talk about how much fun it is. It's only been legal in Texas for, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 10 years. I can't remember exactly. And there's been a lot of studies done on it. They actually did a study on it right here in Lake Palestine. And I got to say, I don't think I'm the type to just, find a hole, stick my foot. A lot of them will stick their foot in there first. And then if it feels right, then they'll go ahead and stick their hand down in there and shove their hand down their mouth.
Yeah, but you don't know what's there.
I know.
I mean, if you get a big turtle, you might be missing some fingers.
That's fine.
It happens.
I know. People do it. I don't know. It ain't my style. I'm a big guy. I kind of like to just sit in the boat and, sit in the chair and use my rod and reel. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm not getting in and out of the boat for one, or I don't know, it's just not my style.
Good Lord,
but that's the cool thing about it.
Well, the good Lord only gave me 10 fingers. I'd like to try to keep them all if I can.
I'm with you. But there's a whole group of people that will noodle. And good for you. If you're a noodler, do it, enjoy it, do it legal. It looks like a great sport. Everybody has their things that they love. I'm not a big fan of it, me personally, simply because I feel like when those big flatheads are on those beds, that they're protecting their eggs.
What about snakes? There's water moccasins. Some people call them cottonmouths. I'm out fishing and they'll be slithering up the side of my boat, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not in the water. Actually, I've hooked those water moccasins, and when I reel it in and can't get it off my line, I just cut my line.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm with you. I'm sure everybody else is too.
There's some whoppers out there.
Got all the different types of way to catfish. Another thing too, I'd like to talk a little bit about is bait. one of the things, you know, I keep some pictures in my office of some catfish and stuff like that. And one of the things a lot of people come ask me, what kind of bait you use? As soon as they see my picture, what bait are you using, right? I'm just using fresh cut bait.
Well, among all fishermen, you know, it's kind of like comparing notes.
Yeah.
You're like, well, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? Because everybody's trying to figure out how to catch more fish.
The secret thing. They want the secret thing. You know, that's part of fun. You know, trying to be a, you know, get better at your sport.
Well, catfish, they'll eat about anything. You know, I've even caught one on a spinner bait. I was bass fishing, reeling a spinner bait, and when it struck it, I'm like, man, I got a good sized bass. All right, so I reel them into the boat, and it's a catfish.
Yeah, were you disappointed?
Well, I eat catfish, so I kept them. I'm like, well, it's a decent sized catfish, but I couldn't believe he hit a top water where, well, you know, it was shallow water.
Yeah.
But when I was reeling that spinner bait in, it was fairly close to the top, and that's when he hit it. And that's just highly abnormal. Well,
a catfish, if anybody knows me well enough, they know I study these fish. I'm passionate about it. A catfish is almost like the freshwater version of a shark. Okay? They are an opportunistic feeder. They will eat whatever they can get their hands on, you know, a lot of times. Especially when they're young. They'll hit anything. You know, when they're small, they'll catch, you know, worms. You can throw worms around a boat dock trying to catch brim and perch stuff like that, and you'll catch channel cat that big all day long. You know, they'll eat anything, especially channel cat.
Yeah.
But as they grow into larger catfish, I personally have found that they like fresh cut or fresh killed bait, not stink bait. In my learning about fish, you know, growing up, we would use anything that was stinky. I mean, they got these cheese dips and stuff like that, and I guess there's times when that's okay. But I learned something a long time ago. I was reading a book by Ian Fisherman. It's called Catfish Fever. One of the best books you can get. If you can get your hands on it, buy it. It was written by Doug Stange. He's the editor in Fisherman now. At the time, he was still up and coming, you know, guy. But he said something that really hit home with me, and it was this. It's simple. You know, me and you, we like a big steak, right? You know, we go home, I don't want to cook me a ribeye steak. It's good. I want a fresh steak. It tastes good. To a big catfish, their big steak is a big piece of fresh cut bait. And the reason why is because that's what they eat every day. You know, they don't swim around the water in the river out there looking for stink bait, because it's not natural to their environment. But what they will hit is a big old piece of fresh cut bait or live bait, one of the two. And I mean fresh. If it's not alive, it needs to be been, you know, put on ice fairly quick after catching. And that's what we do. I don't use the sticky stuff anymore.
Well, let's see. You got good old fashioned red worms or night crawlers. You got liver. You got
liver's good.
Even some people have even tried shrimp.
Yep, shrimp does work. Now, shrimp is one of those that, again, you need to use it fresh.
And you know, I've been down to the coast, saltwater fishing. I've used shrimp. I've caught the saltwater catfish on that, or the gaff top.
Yep.
But some people use it for freshwater too. I couldn't believe this, but I tried it, and it actually works. So I call it catfish candy.
Oh yeah.
And what I do is I go and I get the rock bottom cheapest hot dogs I can find at the store, and I'll buy a couple packs of them, and I'll dice those hot dogs up about 1/2-inch slices, and I'll take a container and I'll put cherry Kool-Aid, the powder, and marinate it with some vanilla extract.
Yeah.
And then I put a little bit of garlic, salt or garlic powder. So you've got garlic, hot dog, vanilla extract, and you basically marinate it. And I let it set overnight. And even if you let it set out in the sun, that's fine too, because
let that weenie soak up all that
juice. The more
juice.
it soaks up and the stinkier it is, the better off you are. So I'll take it out by the time next day, 2, 3, when I go out fishing, and I'll put one of those on it. And usually I fish with it in the shallow water. I'm talking, 4 or 5 foot range.
Yeah.
I use about 2 foot leader line with some split shot. Use a bait hook and a bobber, and especially during the springtime in the months of April, May.
Yeah.
Man, I tear them up. I mean,
I know you have. I've seen
as soon as you throw it out there, that bobber's going down.
You know, it's cool about fishing because for catfish, because everybody kind of gets in on their own bait that they like to use, and once you catch them on that, you won't deviate from it much.
But you can't beat red worms.
You know, red worms are good too.
You even catch brim on the red worms. So,
they like worms.
You can kind of get a twofer.
Yeah, I like to catch my own bait. Me and Sherry, we'll go out and we buy those perch traps, and you got to make sure they're legal. The certain kind, they got to have openings. I think 1 inch by 3 inches the max opening. You can have as many as you want, but it's got to be 1 inch by 3 inch in Texas. And man, you toss them things out in the water, and just put a little bit of bait in there, like some bread or something like that, and just leave it be in the kind of midsummer to late summer. And the brim, sometimes they're just curious, and they'll just go in there and they get trapped in there. And you can pull that thing up and have all the bait you want.
Well,
and I actually have a clip of that, a couple clips. And anyway, I'm gonna show them right now, and then we'll get to where you were headed.
Okay.
So watch the clip here. Here's some of my wife and me catching our own bait for big catfish with the perch trap. There it is. All right, we're fixing to check the perch trap. Sherry volunteered to do the walk-in. We're in about 2 feet of water. I don't even know if there's enough water here to hold any perch, but we'll look. Maybe there'll be some in there. Find out. Make sure there ain't no snakes in there. May not be nothing in there. Ooh, doggy. Look at them perch. Look at him. Look at him. Yeah, buddy, we got some perch. Look at, we got them, don't we? Couple. Got a few. Good. There's the perch trap. That's what it does for you. See all them fish in there? Perch trap. Some bait. Pretty good bait. Look at them. And so, after seeing that, you can kind of see a way to catch your own bait if you don't want to use rod and reel. Some people use a cast net, but we'll catch them like that, and we freeze them. We'll put them on ice immediately, and then we freeze them in Ziploc bags with no air in them.
That's how you caught your lake record.
Yeah, that's right.
Deeper water, drift fishing.
That day I wasn't deep.
You weren't deep. How deep of water were you that day?
That day, it was early spring. The water was starting to heat up just a little bit. I was actually I was anchored down that day in about 7 foot of water.
Okay.
And I cast it out into about 5 foot. And it's a spot that's it's been great for me every year in spring. I just happened to find it one year, and it produces. My dad actually caught his biggest catfish there. Carissa, my daughter, she caught her biggest catfish there. I've caught several in the 20-pounders there, but on March the 1st of this year, before the COVID madness started, I caught a 48.2 blue catfish on rod and reel out there, and I was by myself, and it was a wild day, I tell you. I caught it. I knew it was big. I actually had to call my neighbor to bring me a big cooler to put it in. In fact, I'll just show you a clip of that big fish right now in that cooler. All right, we're fixing to let her go. She's not happy. She's pretty. Lake Palestine record. I'm gonna let her go over here. Look at the belly on her. Looking nasty. Her tentacle looks weird to me. Look at that tentacle. Her barbel. Strange. What a cool deal. Alright, bye. So that was right before I was about to let the fish go. I had already taken that fish over to Athens Freshwater Fishery Center and had it weighed, certified weighed, and just barely beat the record. There's probably somebody else that's caught the record bigger, you know, on rod and reel. I'm sure they have, but they didn't get it certified, and that was the one that was on record. So I barely beat it. It was pretty cool. That week was wild. We had TV stations.
Yeah, you even had the news up here.
We had the newspaper. We had 2 or 3 TV stations coming to interview us. I mean, this was all right before the COVID thing hit. I mean, it was weird. But that was cool. It was neat. I had my 15 minutes of fame. What'd you call it?
15 minutes of fame?
No, that ain't what you call it. You said I hit the redneck lottery.
It was a redneck lottery.
I
told you, you need to go out and buy a lottery ticket.
It was pretty cool.
You know, one thing interesting about, you know, the perch you catch, and one thing I didn't realize is when you're cutting it up, you're scaling it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why on earth are you scaling it?
Did you know why?
Because that way it gets the flavor.
The flavors can seep through the skin. You know, the way the freshwater fish breathes and respirates in the water, it goes, you know, in through the gills and then kind of out through the skin. If you get rid of the scales, those good smelling juices, okay, you know, catfish can taste and sense like a shark, okay, they can sense blood from almost a mile away, okay. So yeah, it's just to get the juices flowing through the skin a little bit easier. They don't have as much obstacle to go through. If you get the scales off, they can go through there and they can find it quicker. You know, it's just one of the things that I've been doing for a while. Yeah, just cut them up. I use scissors and cut them. Put it on the hook, big sharp hook. Don't hide the point. Don't hide the hook point. You know?
Well,
I don't. Keep it showing. I mean, you want that fish to hit and hook himself.
Yeah, that fresh cut bait, you know, especially if you're drift fishing in the deeper water, that's probably the best bait you can use.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference, and after fishing that way, I see the difference in deeper water that makes.
You know, it's just like when we're hunting, Taylor. I mean, you find yourself moving, changing tactics. Sometimes they're in deeper water. Sometimes they're in 60 foot of water. Depends on the body of water. Sometimes they're in 5 foot. I'll tell you this, blue catfish in particular, they can be anywhere and everywhere at the same time in a reservoir. You can have big ones in deep water and you can have big ones in shallow water all at the same time. It's really phenomenal. You know, I use a Santee Cooper rig is what it's called. It's kind of weird because I kind of created it based on some stuff I'd read in the literature I was talking about earlier. And then lo and behold, it's almost the identical setup to the Santee Cooper rig. And it's what, you know, catfishermen use. And I'll just show you a clip. Here, check it out. So that's what I use, is a setup like that. And what that does, you'll notice the key feature to that is that float
at the end
closer to the hook. And what it does is, instead of I drift fish a lot, instead of that bait laying on the bottom, you know, you hear people talk about catfish being bottom feeders.
Yeah.
Well, they'll hang around the bottom, but they'd rather catch a bait that's not laying on the bottom. And so that float gets it up out of the mud, and it decreases tangles, you know, getting snagged and stuff like that. I'm gonna tell you right now, use a green float. I've tried every color. If you use a green float, especially the ones from Kamal Tackle Company, I think they're made right here in Texas.
Yeah.
You put that thing about yay far from the hook, get it up off the bottom, you'll catch catfish.
And it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
You know.
Well, even the day, you know, we're out fishing, I didn't use one. I was using, I think, just a regular split shot, you know, trying to do it the way I've always done it.
Yeah.
And you out-caught me on fish.
Well, I mean, it depends on where you're at and what you're doing. I mean, there's sometimes where, you know, fishing around a boat dock with a bobber, with a worm under a hook with some split shot or your catfish candy may outfish the freshwater fish. You know, I use big chunks of bait, so I kind of limit myself to how many small ones I catch. But I do catch some that are eatable size. You know, 4 or 5 pounders. Those are perfect for eating.
Yeah.
And anything over 10 pounds, I throw it back, just because I want them to go lay more eggs and have big fish in the water. There's plenty of smaller ones to eat, plenty of them. Trust me. But yeah, that's a certain rig that works for me. You know, everybody's got a different method of catfishing. I'll drift fish. I'll let the wind push the boat, and I'll drag the bait on the bottom. Sometimes I anchor, like the day I caught that big one. You know, I know you like to anchor a lot. You got a little secret honey hole that you go to, and you'll anchor up, and you just wear them out.
Yeah, I don't even
catfish candy. So.
Don't even use a trolling motor.
Yeah, I mean it's there's so many different ways to do it, and I love it. We'll talk more about it. We'll get in depth, especially when spring comes around. We'll be talking specific gear techniques and methods and stuff like that. But we want to talk a little bit of fishing today. Here we've got a few more videos here and pictures to share with you of some of the fish that we've caught, and just want to show y'all that. So here you go. Hold on. Oh hell, I wasn't even recording. All right, I'm recording now. Sorry, I didn't push the damn button.
Why are you recording now? You're supposed to record the reel.
I know, I didn't push the button right the whole damn time. That's stupid me. Sorry. Anyway, there's a good catfish. Just caught this one. Look at that pretty sucker. Woo-wee! Gonna measure him. I'm gonna put the phone down for a second so I can measure him. Looks like it. He's 4.75. He looks bigger than that. 5 pounds. Oh, he's pissing everywhere. Look at that. Oh, he's pissing all over my boat. Nice catfish. Pretty fish. Get a big fillet off of that. Ooh-wee. That fish was actually bigger than that. I had to put the wrong button there on the scale. I had the kilograms marked instead of the pounds. It threw me off. I was like, what the heck's going on? It was actually a little bit bigger fish. I may put this one in the freezer. Times is hard these days. Times is hard.
Catfish over the weekend.
Just crazy, right? Our chief meteorologist Joel Barnes and chief photographer Alan Casper caught up with the fishermen earlier today to get the full story.
All right, we're here with Robert Holloway, who caught a 48.2-pound blue catfish out at Lake Palestine. Robert, congratulations on the fish, first off. Did you know it was a big fish when you first caught it?
When I first caught it, I wasn't real sure until it kind of swam around a little bit, and I got the slack out of the line, and then I felt it, and I knew it was something pretty big.
What did you use for bait to catch the fish?
I was using cut sunfish or perch, some people call it.
So explain the difference between the rod and reel record, which you set, and then the overall record itself.
Yeah, so the rod and reel record is that simple. It's just the biggest one caught for that species on a rod and reel for the lake.
What pound test line were you using for it?
25.
So for the amateurs out there, what kind of hints can you give some people if they're hoping to catch a big catfish like that?
Big tackle and fresh cut bait. That works best.
Tell us a little bit about the rod and reel that you caught the fish with.
It's a Bass Pro Shop mega cast with my cat buster rod, and it's a modified 17 Cooper rig. It's what a lot of big catfishermen use.
All right, gosh, that's incredible. I can't imagine that.
That would be a hard catfish to fry.
That would be a very well. Oh no, you can make it happen. Don't worry about it.
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible.
Well, welcome back. I hope y'all enjoyed the show today, talking catfish. We'll get out there and catch some more, and we'll be shooting a video on them and put them up for you guys and sharing with you along. Don't be afraid to send us your stuff. That's okay too. Leave a comment on the Facebook page, and we'll get with you, and we don't mind sharing it. If you got some different ideas and techniques, let us know. So, yeah, I'm still waiting on the state. They sent me an email saying they're working on my record. I just want to see it on the website. It ain't on there yet. If you look, you're gonna be like, "Hey, Robert, your stuff ain't on there." Well, it's on there. It's just not on the main website yet.
Well, it's COVID, and
the COVID shut them down.
It's taken a while, but it's gonna be on there.
They sent me an email a few days ago saying that they're trying to get it done. They're having staffing issues, but I mean, who ain't? So we're still waiting on the state for them to get that done. But thank y'all for watching this week, and we'll see you next week. And as always, pick up your trash and
Get her dead.
Get her dead. See y'all next week.